What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We have a great episode planned for you all today. As many of you know, the NBA regular season has come to a halt. It is wrapped up, and that means it's time for the NBA playoffs, and we're here to give you our Stay Hot consensus NBA playoffs predictions. They're going to go 100% perfect. We all know this, so make sure you tune in and tell your friends to tune in, so that you can have the perfect predictions for the NBA playoffs. And also make sure to follow us on Instagram. If you're not already, follow us at StayHotBW for some really cool graphics that our producers and designers make. They have some really cool ideas. They're much better than I am, at least. I make really bad graphics. They make really good graphics. You want to see really good graphics, make sure you follow at StayHotBW to see all the cool content that we have on our Instagram. But let's...
Yeah, follow the one social media platform that's not in like immediate peril. Follow us there.
Yeah, Twitter falling apart, TikTok about to get banned. Please follow us everywhere else. Anyway, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing on this beautiful Sunday evening?
This is Easter Sunday. It's Easter
Sunday. That's true.
Happy Easter. I don't know. Do you guys do anything for Easter? I personally have pretty mundane
Normally,
Easters,
I go home, but I've been pretty busy getting like stuff ready for Battle of the Bands and had some homework to get done. So I was just like, not in the cards this year.
My parents sent me a ham, but that's about it.
A ham? Don't they know you don't have like...
Why would I need?
Oh, did they prepare it already? Was it
well,
like...
they didn't make it, but it comes already prepared.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Is
know.
it like
ham.
Okay.
How big is this? Is it like
a 9
sliced up
ham.
already, or is it just a
it's
big
sliced,
full...
but it's together.
Okay.
Like a loaf of bread.
That's a good gift.
It is a
ham?
great gift. They did it last year too. That's what I get for Easter. They send me a ham.
Wow.
Shout out to
wish-
mom and
How
dad.
long has it been in transit?
Not
And
that long.
does that
it's
affect
like a ham company. This is what they do. They send hams.
Have you ever gotten like what is it? The like fruit baskets, they do like same day. They'll like make it that day.
Yeah, I
and
guess
then
that's
send
true.
it off.
Those go badly faster than an entire ham does. So yeah, I've never heard of a ham getting sent through the mail, but where there's a will, there's a way, I guess.
It's actually pretty. It's actually like pretty well priced, honestly. I'm thinking about switching over from buying lunch meat at the grocery store to just getting hams ordered to my house and using that instead because the quality's better and the price is like legitimately comparable.
How much is it to get a ham?
I was looking on the
shipped to
website
your
today.
house?
Like if you wanted like I was like, okay, 6-pound ham was like $40. I'm like, that's pretty good. No bones, boneless ham. So it's all ham.
Interesting. HelloFresh is gonna kill us after
HelloFresh is shaking in their boots right now hearing about this.
Hearing us talk about why you should buy a whole ham.
It's great.
Yeah.
Go buy a whole ham and use the code Stay Hot and it's free.
Barbecue ham sandwich. Have you ever done that? Is that a common thing? Like get some French bread or whatever kind of bread and just put some ham and some barbecue sauce on that.
I'm not a big barbecue sauce
easy
guy. Barbecue sauce is not that good, unfortunately.
I like barbecue. I've never put it on a ham before, but
and nasty.
I've had just like a ham sandwich is really tasty.
I'm gonna ignore that, but sure.
Barbecue sauce is not that good. Bottom
it's
tier
pretty
sauce.
good, man.
It's like,
what do you put on ribs then? Do you like it? Do you like it on things that it would normally go on?
Okay, it's not actually
rib?
nasty. It's fine. I'm just saying, like, I'm never gonna pick it given multiple options of sauce.
It's not as good as just straight up ketchup. I would say that.
I think those are like in two different like condiment groups. There's almost never a time where I'm choosing between ketchup and barbecue sauce outside of...
Barbecue sauce is by far the best sauce.
Really?
That's not...
All condiments are not the same. That's... would you put barbecue sauce on a hot dog? No. Or you should
be.
Maybe.
No. Have you ever? No. You know the difference between ketchup and
ketchup is better.
Barbecue sauce. They have different use cases.
I don't put anything on my hot dogs, so...
Oh my God.
Grow
You're just raw dogging that thing? You know, not mustard or ketchup or
I don't like mustard.
Anything?
You don't like mustard? So, Mustard's great.
I don't like mustard, and I'm just like, yeah. I think it was just like one day they were out of ketchup, and I was just like, I'll just eat it plain. And I've just done that ever since.
So even if you had ketchup in the house, you wouldn't even put that on a hot dog?
Probably not.
This is so out of
No, this is the content that everyone came for. No, actually, what we need to talk about is who's the better quarterback between Theo and I. Because I'm over here with the sidearm Anthony Richardson mechanics.
No one throws like that. I saw this video. You've posted it multiple times, the video of you rolling out and hitting the guy down the field. You're throwing it almost underhand. That's fine. Whatever you need to get it, the velocity, man. It's tough to throw with like perfect mechanics. But you also posted a video of you just throwing, not running around. Just you threw, like your feet were planted and you still threw underhand. Now, I've played catch with you before, and you did not throw it underhanded like that. When did this? No, you didn't. Oh. When did this change in throwing technique happen?
I don't know. I don't notice it. It just sometimes
you did it in middle school. I remember.
Yeah,
very specific.
I maybe just sometimes revert back to it.
Maybe I'm misremembering, but it doesn't matter if a throwing motion is wonky if you're just playing catch, because like it doesn't matter. Like it's not football.
I'm
like
not
throwing
going
mechanics.
To the league.
Right. It doesn't matter. Like people are giving me shit for hitting the target at like this arcade game. They're like, why did you throw it right? Because it's like, if you throw it right, you're throwing it pretty hard. And it's like,
yeah,
the target is 10 feet away. Like I don't want to whip it at that thing. Like go try hard, but anyway,
we literally had a video go viral of me trying to do that, and I pelted the side of the thing.
Right, you missed it like 5 inches, and then it just hit like this metal thing and made this loud noise. I at least hit the target 3 times. I don't know who's better between the two of us. If we do want to get into some NFL news real quickly before the NBA stuff, Odell Beckham did sign with the Ravens for $15 million this year. Mm-hmm. Reading between the lines, it seems like that might mean he is pretty confident that Lamar is going to come back if he's in like the ring chasing portion of his career.
Like,
and that's one thing. And I think that should be everyone's take. I just don't think Lamar has much leverage in this situation, considering he is on the open market right now. Anyone can call him and offer him a contract, and it's not happening. So if that's not happening, why would a trade happen?
Right.
So it kind of confirms what maybe we already knew. $50 million for Odell. Look, if you have the money, there's not that many good free agents left. Like in a single year, you might as well use up all your cap space. So at this point in free agency, I don't really mind, because the last time we saw Odell, he was a very good receiver during the Rams playoff run. And they need more good receivers, especially in Todd Monken's scheme that is very vertical. It really prioritizes shots down the field. And they already knew how to run the football better than anybody with Greg Roman. So if you're going to fire Greg Roman, your passing attack better be damn good. And it just can't be damn good without upgrades at wide receiver. Mm-hmm. So for him to like, at his press conference, he said, like, I don't know. I know everyone hates Greg Roman, but he said, I don't know what you guys want from me. I thought the offense that you guys were running was pretty good. That is like, not a direct quote, but paraphrasing what he said at his opening press conference. And what they want him to do is transform the passing attack. And at the end of the day, you need players to transform a passing attack more than scheme.
And they just haven't done a very good job. They haven't done a very good job of bringing in like high level receivers to this point.
Yeah. So I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it's a cool signing. I love Odell, obviously. I like the Ravens. They're a cool team. I know, Blaiden, you always bemoan that they bring in players that you like, and they did it. They went and did it again.
Every time. Breaks my heart, but they're gonna. I like Lamar, and if I can see him be successful, I'm not gonna complain too much. This episode of Stay Hot is brought to you by our friends over at Shady Rays. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers world-class products rivaling tons of other brands that I've tried in the past. They have you covered from the sun to the slopes with premium polarized shades, customizable snow goggles, and so much more. You can look just as drippy as our main man, THEO NFL, with his premium polarized sunglasses. You just can't find anything like that anywhere else on the market. THEO, how much do you love these sunglasses?
I love him so much. I was just using him I drove from Phoenix to Flagstaff today, and they reduced the glare the whole way north. Wow. So they were very useful to me as early as like an hour ago.
Wow. Look how recent. This is the true promise of Shady Rays. And if you lose or break your pair, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. And if for whatever reason you don't instantly fall in love like I did, just exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop with Shady Rays. Their team always has your back. But I think my favorite thing about Shady Rays is their emphasis on giving back. To date, they've donated over 20 million meals to fight hunger with Feeding America. So with Shady Rays, you can look good and feel good knowing you're helping to make a difference. And now exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the new year. So go on over to shadyrays.com and use the code STAYHOT for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses, and try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 200,000 people. Shady Rays, making an impact together. We want to get into the NBA playoffs and how that's going to shake up. Of course, we're going to have to start with the play-in tournament. And the way this is going to work is we're just going to kind of walk through the playoffs round by round and try and come to a consensus of what's going to happen. So we're just making a bracket pretty much.
We're just making a bracket. We've got it up on ESPN, and we're gonna talk it through and fill it out. So what's up first?
Do we want to start in East or West? Let's say that.
Let's start East. It'll go quicker.
All right. Starting in the East, we'll start with the 9 and 10, Toronto and Chicago.
I'm going to be completely honest with you guys about the plans. I think logistically, like if we're trying to just play the odds, first off, the Eastern Conference play-in teams entirely do not matter. All right?
Okay.
No one's sorry, Toronto, Chicago, Atlanta, Miami. None of their fans are like, actually, dude, we're going to the conference finals. Like, we know. I'd say if you want to project some of these, statistically, odds are pick the 7 and the 8. They have multiple games. They got to win one. I'm not picking a 10 seed to win 2. Like all of these teams, you might be a little bit higher on one or the other, but when we're talking about single NBA games, it can go any way. If I'm trying to just predict and have the best bracket, like it's March Madness or something, I would just go with the 7 and the 8 every time to be the 2 teams to make it out. Which one falls in which place? I don't know, and I really don't care, at least in the East.
Okay.
None of these teams are beating Boston or Milwaukee in a 7-game series, even if Middleton is banged up.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, if we want to do it like that and just go through the first round, then we can just go right off the bat, Milwaukee versus Atlanta. Like,
I have a question. So let's start with the 7 versus 8 seed. It's Miami versus Atlanta.
Yeah.
Right. Who do you think will win that game specifically? Like if you were filling it out, I feel like Miami would. I just don't like betting against Spoelstra playing a home playoff game, essentially like a winner go home situation. And Butler. Like I just think that they have the guys and the defense to grit it out versus Atlanta, who is, dealing with a new coach, dealing with a younger team with less experience, although they do, I guess, have plenty of experience because it's still pretty similar to the Eastern Conference playoff team from a couple years ago. I just trust Spoelstra, basically, and the home field advantage or home court advantage that you may want to say. Udonis Haslem came in today, his last regular season game, and dropped like 16 points, something like that. That's the spark Miami needed. They're not going out and losing after that. We're dealing with a Cinderella, maybe not a Cinderella, but a fairy tale ending to Udonis Haslem's career.
And then they get to go into a rematch against Boston. Hey, it's all shaping up nicely.
I don't know about that, but I do think that I trust their core to win a game. So then you've got Atlanta. Do you think they're at risk of getting bounced by either Chicago or Toronto? I guess maybe that's the question if we think Miami can win the first game.
I think they could. It's just one game. I don't have.
I don't give a damn.
I don't have strong opinions about it. I can't lie to you. Either of these teams are going to get cooked by Milwaukee. If the Bulls, and some of them have been turning it on a little bit, and I think 6-game series is totally possible. I think Miami could be annoying for Boston, but I'm sorry, I don't have the guts to pick against either of them.
Okay. So we'll just say the 7 and 8 seed, and then we'll say we don't need to spend too much time on it. Milwaukee and Boston.
Move on. Yeah.
So yeah, what's next?
That brings us to Cleveland and New York, the Knicks.
Maybe the best playoff series of the first round, dare I say.
In the East?
You can dare say that. Cavs are number 1 in the NBA in defensive rating, so...
They are. Do you think Mobley deserved... I know that when we talked about the Defensive Player of the Year, we kind of debated between the two heavy odds-on favorites between Brook Lopez and Jaren Jackson Jr. When he posted that on TikTok, there were a lot of Mobley snubbed, Mobley disrespected. Do you think that he has a valid case to be the best defender in the league or win Defensive Player of the Year? Not that has much to do with the series. I was just wondering.
I think he's up there. I think he's up there. But it's kind of hard to maybe put him directly. I don't know. I'd probably still take Lopez or Jaren Jackson Jr. over him, but he's a respectable third place.
Okay. So getting to the series, you've got Brunson, you've got Randall. They have really turned it on recently and seem to invigorate. I hope that we get more of the New York street interviews, the same thing that gave us, all those TikTok sounds and images a couple years ago. I hope that comes back, because that was truly a great little trend, I thought. Yeah, but do we think they have the firepower to beat the Cavs seriously, or what would it take for the Knicks to win this thing?
I don't know. I think the Knicks are a little bit deeper than the Cavs, and that helps them a lot. With Cleveland, sometimes it feels like things get down to it and it's a little bit too much Donovan Mitchell, if it can be, or they're too heavily relying on him. And they have, I love their core four, and I think in a few years it's going to be something really special. But they're not, they're very prone to a round one upset here. The question is, are you going to see a Brunson like you saw Brunson like last year in the playoffs? And it's not totally unreasonable to expect to, because he's been playing his best basketball this year. And last year, when he did really well against Utah, it's like, okay, well, it's real bad perimeter defenders. Cleveland is not that much better defensively on the perimeter, at least with their guard play. So I think if Brunson can really get it going, yeah, they've got a shot.
They are the best offense in the league over the last 2 weeks. New York is. They have just been on fire when it comes to putting points up on the board. And you got to think that Julius Randle is going to give the interior all they can handle. And then you've got Brunson creating havoc on the outside. There is a world where they just stay hot. There is a world where they just, keep it going and keep the scoring going. The Cavs are 17th over the last 2 weeks when it comes to scoring efficiency per 100 possessions. And the best offense is good offense. And right now the Knicks have that more than anybody else. And I think that they can, yeah, like you said, Matt, expose those perimeter defenders, kind of like, Donovan Mitchell's team. That's what happened to Donovan Mitchell last year. It's when you say the guards for Cleveland aren't very good. Yeah, it's the same guy a lot of the time. So I could definitely see a world where the Knicks win this thing with the depth and the scoring firepower. But it does seem like the best player seems to win series a lot. And when you've got Mobley and Mitchell, it might not matter, because Mitchell has a history of some ridiculous playoff runs. So yeah, it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one for sure.
I will say, Matt, when we were talking about the MVP race, you were, very pro defense. And I wonder if going into the playoffs, you're going to have that same mentality where it's like, do you think the best defenses or the best offenses really have, leverage here? Because the Knicks
don't 50-50, I would say.
You think it's about 50? I mean, the Knicks, the Knicks are pretty bad defensively over the past 10 games. They're like 24th in the league.
Do not take any of the last couple of weeks very seriously. And don't take regular season stats that seriously either, to be completely honest with you. Teams have not been playing real rosters for half of these games. A lot of people have already decided, look, Dallas just totally gave up.
Yeah.
You got a lot of teams that are way out of the plans who are like, we don't really care anymore. I mean, the lineups the Hornets have been putting out there, oh my God, everybody's sitting. The Suns today, so I'm not too worried about that. As far as defense goes, when people evaluate teams, generally they overrate offense and they underrate defense a little bit. And in the regular season, that's also probably too. Better offensive teams are usually a little bit better in the regular season, but then if they don't have the guys, defensive personnel wise, then in a 7-game series with more time and more thought put into each individual matchup, that gets exposed a lot. But it really is 50-50.
I guess that's
so. Who are we picking here? And these two teams, I think it's interesting. These two teams have known that they're going to face each other for a long time. They've kind of been in a tier together where there's been a lot that's been unsettled at the bottom of these things, and especially in the West. So there's a whole conference where the playoffs are changing every day. In the East, you always knew it was these two. So coaching could matter, time to think about matchups and time to prep has been a bigger deal, or will be a bigger deal, I think, in this series than a lot of the other series, just because they've had so much time to know who the opponent is, or to really suspect who the opponent is. So I don't know how much time these coaches have to think about things like that. Really, maybe they spend no time on it, but when you kind of get a sense of who you're going to play, I'm sure if you have any spare time, you're kind of watching their games and thinking about how to attack them longer than some other teams were. So I think it's going to be a dogfight. I know I've insinuated Knicks, but I do think the Cavs just have the better roster top to bottom. And when you can't trust the stats so much, I think, it's safe to bet on star power in the NBA. And as good as Brunson and Randall have played, there are actual, real, not to say that these guys aren't, but I do think the star power established.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how Randall plays.
Guys. Yeah,
with the whole last playoff things. I think this Knicks team is a lot better than the first iteration that made the playoffs a couple of years ago. But yeah, I'll say that I think the Knicks have a very real chance against the Cavs. I'm picking the Cavs, though.
Really warms my heart, Matt, to see you taking the Cleveland Cavaliers in this matchup. They're obviously going to win it all.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think we can move on to the other games. We have a lot of games to get through, especially if we're going to do the entirety of the playoffs. Next up in the East, Philly versus Brooklyn.
Brooklyn's offense, Brooklyn is an interesting team because they are very switchable. Dinwiddie is 6'6", Claxton is 6'11". They're all pretty athletic. They've been very good on defense recently. I just think the offense is too bad. Since they're also a completely different team than they were at the beginning of the year, which is both a good or a bad thing. I'm looking through their stats and I'm this doesn't mean anything to me because this team has a different coach, different stars, different role players. They just completely changed in the middle of the year.
They went through an entire rebuild over the span of a month.
Yes. I don't know if I've ever quite seen a team that's less comparable from game 82 to game 1. I just think looking at the last month and a half or so, and I know that teams maybe take their foot off the gas a little bit, but the Nets shouldn't, and I don't think they really did. And yet their offense has been pretty fucking terrible, to be completely honest with you. It's the third worst team in the league since March 1st in offensive field goal percentage, fifth worst team in the league in offensive points per game. They're 11-10 since March 1st. Cam Thomas, I know that he had a huge game today, but I don't trust him. He's been pretty terrible recently, inefficient recently since a stretch right before KD got traded. I was literally doing it in my notes. I'm like, man, he has really not put together any consistent performances. And then I checked Twitter and it was like, Cameron Thomas goes for 50 points. It wasn't quite 50, but you get the gist. I just don't think they have the offense to go into Philadelphia and beat the Sixers at all. I think they could be feisty. They've got the defense. They're very switchable, but I don't know if they're very serious threats here.
Do we worry about playoff Embiid? That's scary.
You do, but probably not for this series. I think Claxton, give him a good fight. I agree, though. I just don't think the Nets have enough guys who can really go out there and create shots and create offense for them to be super competitive, and that's been the case. It's a very weird 6th seed. Probably won't see something like this again for a while. So, I'm going to pick the 76ers to win it.
It's like a zombie team. It's like a ghost ship where weird. This other team got them to this very high ranking title contender. And then these new guys came in and just took over with a certain record. It is very, very strange. It's like they simmed up to a certain point and then the users started playing when they clinched the playoffs. I don't know how else to describe it. I've never seen anything quite like it. It is like it's like the ship in Greek lore where if you replace every single part, is it still the same ship? And I think the answer is yes, because if the original ship was putting up numbers, they replaced every part, but it's still the same team. They'd still have the same seed. So I think this answer, this age-old question has been answered, and the answer is yes, because of seeding.
Fair enough.
They have a lot of good players on their team. It's just funny how it's built. You'll probably never see a team as good as the Nets were blow it up in the middle of the season. They were really good. I had them as a tier 1 contender. It's crazy that it fell apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is weird. So we've got Cleveland moving on. We've got Philly. We got Boston. We got Milwaukee. Do we want to head over to the West or do we want to just finish out the East?
Let's finish out the East real quick.
All right. Well, then first round of the conference semifinals, we've got Milwaukee and Cleveland.
Yeah, man. I think there's reason to be relatively concerned with Milwaukee because of Chris Middleton. Now they say he's going to be back and healthy, and now you've got some rest time between now and now and the start of the playoffs because of the plans. And if he misses a couple of games to start a series against Atlanta or Chicago, you'll probably be fine regardless. So you shouldn't worry too much in the short term, you'd think, but he just hasn't played much ball this year. And if they don't have him, they're all of a sudden lacking a lot of perimeter creation. Now, you could say they took Boston to 7 last year without him entirely. So you can't get much worse than that. But it does make me a little nervous, though. Ultimately, the defense they've got going right now, when they have Middleton on the court and they've got Drew and Giannis and Brook, is ridiculous. It's nuts. And it only gets better in the playoffs. These are guys not only who are good defensively or guys that you can it's hard to pick who I'm going to attack, but guys who can close out games on defense. So I'm not going to give some super long explanation as to why I think Milwaukee is going to beat the Cavs. I don't think that's the interesting matchup of the East, but I think the Cavs could get a couple games, and I think if you go without Middleton, you're going to have to win some ugly ones. And I'm not projecting that he won't play, but when you're looking who can make a run in the playoffs, going in with one of your key players banged up is important. Staying healthy is the most important thing by far.
What's up, hotties? If you like good food like I do, you gotta check out HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. I was making food the other night. They sent me some meatballs to make. I made some meatballs. I was about to make some, pork tacos, right? They got all types of food for us. And look, living on a college student's budget can make it feel like you've got to dig in your pockets for a quality meal these days. Grocery store prices rising every day. Now is the perfect time to get started with HelloFresh. HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout. Plus, April is Earth Month, and HelloFresh is always committed to a cleaner planet. On average, HelloFresh meals have a 31% lower carbon footprint than the same meals made from supermarket ingredients. Not to mention, nearly all HelloFresh packaging materials are curbside recyclable in most areas of the United States. So make sure you go on over to HelloFresh.com/StayHot50 and use the code StayHot50 to get 50% off. Plus, your first box ships for free. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/StayHot50 and use the code StayHot50 for 50% off. Plus, your first box ships for free. Again, that's HelloFresh, America's and Stay Hot's #1 meal kit.
Yeah, if you look at the offensive and defensive rating for Cleveland, like points per 100 possessions, points allowed per 100 possessions, Cleveland is 7th in the league in offense and 1st in the league in defense, whereas Milwaukee is 13th in the league in offense and 4th in the league in defense. Like, they're kind of, if you look at the underlying metrics, overperforming more than Cleveland is, and there's a reason for that. It is because I think they're a better team. You know, there's a reason why they can overperform these metrics. It's because they've got a guy named Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? Like, it's not saying like, oh, the metrics the underlying metrics say no Cleveland is better, so they are, and they're going to upset them. But Cleveland's really good. Like, Cleveland is very, very good and one of the top teams in the entire NBA. They just play in a conference. I think Cleveland could win the West. They just play in a conference where I believe the actual two top teams also live in Milwaukee and Boston. So I don't quite think they'll make it there. I think, yeah, it is very possible that we see them lose to the Knicks. I think it's very possible they win and then go on and give the Bucks a series. It's going to be kind of an exciting, but it just goes to show like how much is at stake, I think, in that first series with the Knicks and the Cavs, because either of those teams could be kind of a dark horse to make the conference finals, I think. But I don't know if I'm brave enough to pick it if we're going March Madness. I want to get the perfect bracket. I think star power matters so much, and you've got a guy named Giannis, and he's got to be the most consistent playoff performer in the entire NBA these days. Like, he can just go off for, I know, a 50-point finals performance. So, yeah, I think I got to take him.
I'm brave enough to pick the Cavs, but it sounds like it's 2v1.
I'm not shocked.
And if we're doing a consensus, I'm probably outvoted here.
You're outvoted, but you can't say that it happened. You can.
I will.
Yes.
The other thing is, like, I felt like last year when the Bucks were missing Middleton, it wasn't only you're missing the creator. It's like you just didn't have that many guys who could shoot. And it's like the spacing ended up being such a problem for them, and they still almost made it work anyway. The Bucks are a really good team at surviving bad shooting nights, obviously, because they have Giannis. But this year, I mean, if Middleton was 100%, I would say easily that this is the best iteration of Milwaukee yet. That's how I think they're that good.
He's projected to be ready for the round one of the playoffs.
Well, and that's the other thing is, like, I don't want to guess too much. I can tell you he hasn't played much this year, and he's been on and off. But also, Milwaukee has been in pretty safe control of the first for a minute here, and their training staff is, I think, notoriously careful. And obviously here, when you're dealing with, like, you know, all of our players, all of our big players, they're one of the older rosters in the entire NBA. You're going to be more careful, and being healthy is the most important thing for the 100th time. So we'll see. I'm a little worried about that, but if Middleton's healthy, I don't know, man. I like the Cavs, but I just don't think they're nearly as complete of a roster.
Yeah, and we also haven't really seen this Cavs team play in the playoffs because last year everyone got hurt right before the playoffs.
Yeah. So they got bounced. So it will be interesting to see how that translates. And you've got some great defenders, but I think if you have Lopez out there and taking Allen out of the paint, and it's Mobley's great, but it's Giannis.
Right.
And then the wings on the Cavs are questionable, as in not good. So you put Cedi Osman out there, and he gets switched on to Giannis. And
don't talk about the Jedi.
That's GG, I'm afraid. So I love the Cavs core four. I really do. I think all of them are so good, but I'm not going to pick them over the Bucks, and I think they're still probably a year or two away from rounding out the rest of the roster.
I guess that's fair. Now, I have a funny feeling between Philly and Boston. You're not going to hesitate too much on this one.
I'm taking Boston. Look, man.
The question's in how many games?
I respect Philly. Like, they've had a very good year. Harden's had a very good year. Embiid has had, he's been okay, I guess. He's
not with the hater allegations here.
I didn't mean it like that, man.
He's been okay. I get it. He's been all right.
I don't know, whatever. I'm not moving. He's going to win MVP, right?
Yeah.
This is, and I want to see him win MVP because that puts all the stakes on Philly. Not to win the series, obviously. It's like, Boston is going to be the favorite here, but Embiid is one of the very few players labeled as a bad playoff star, where it's like, yeah, he is. He does perform poorly in the playoffs. And going up against Boston, it's going to be tough. Going up against Robert Williams is going to be tough. He's not necessarily always the best at dealing with double teams, I feel like sometimes. I think going for fouls a little bit too much hurts you in the playoffs because you just don't get the whistle the same way. And we've yet to see Embiid, I think, put up back-to-back really good series. Now they've obviously got a little bit of a warm-up against the Nets. But then it's going to be go time against what I think is the best team. And now we even if we weren't talking about Embiid or Harden's playoff struggles, which aren't, I think, quite as bad as Embiid's, but they exist, and you're dealing with an older, post-prime Harden now. But even outside of that, I think Boston's obviously the more complete team. So I think I'm picking Boston pretty easily, but I'll be very interested to see how Embiid performs, whether or not he can be efficient night in and night out. He hasn't really had, like, even guys who have had bad series, and every star player in the NBA currently has had a bad series outside of maybe a couple of guys. But I don't know if he's had like this is me, I'm taking over this series and I'm doing my thing. Not even necessarily to have him like go and win it, but how many series has Giannis done that for? You've had Jokic do that against Portland. We could go through the list of guys where it's just like, I'm, averaging, 37 a game this series, and it's just me and I'm that good. I think if he wins MVP, then there's no way that can't be the expectation for Embiid. And so far, he hasn't come close to that. I'm also very worried about the 76ers staying healthy. Has Embiid's never also gone through two series healthy, and that kills him too. And that's probably part of the reason why he does so poorly in the playoffs. And same thing with Harden. I don't really trust him to stay healthy either. So I'm very worried about the 76ers. I also question, it's like outside of that, I like Maxey, Tobias Harris, go ask Philadelphia fans what they think of him. I don't think they're the biggest fans. And then some of the rotations are really questionable. Whereas with, Boston, it's hard to have a questionable rotation when you're that well put together. So I'm taking Boston in this series, but even if they lose, I think Embiid needs to go out and prove himself by playing a good, tough series. And if he does go and play well and loses anyway, Twitter is going to tell you like, oh, he can't get out of the second round. He could play great and not do it. He's not on the better team. He's not lined up to be going to the conference finals this year, to be completely honest with you. But playing like high, like going out and averaging like 35 and being that guy, being dominant, that would do a lot for him and the narrative surrounding him, especially if he gets MVP.
And we'll see if that 50-point performance that kind of locked up MVP for him at the end of the season is the canary in the coal mine, because we've seen him dominate Boston before. Very recently, he did it. So maybe he can bring that kind of, obviously he's not going to go out there and score 50 points every game, but they've really turned it on recently. Since March 1st, when I was looking at the Nets stats, what really stood out to me is Philadelphia has the best offensive rating since then. And Harden has had a fantastic year, like one of his more efficient years, I believe. I know that he got snubbed from the All-Star vote, and that was a travesty because of how good he actually was doing. It's like, yeah. So you've got like two very, very good players, including potentially the best in the league. So they do have the star power. I do think that it will be a heavyweight fight. I'm not so willing to just write off the 76ers, but I do think Boston is. I'll say it right now. I think Boston's the eventual champion. I think that Boston's the eventual champion. I do. So I'm going to pick Boston here. They just are. They're a dominant force. They are. I don't think people quite realize how dominant they are.
Even when I'm talking about the 76ers and the Cavs, I think both those teams like could win the series given a few breaks. But it's hard for me to just be like, I'm going to outright pick them. Harden has been very good this year. So we'll see. But then you look and it's like, who's the coach? Doc Rivers. Right? Who's the backup centers?
Yes.
It's Dwayne Dedmon and Montrezl Harrell. And he just can't help himself. I know it. Dwayne Dedmon, fourth quarter minutes, game 7. Soon. Dwayne Dedmon is, in my opinion, legitimately the worst player in the NBA this year. I couldn't believe they picked him up. Oh my God. For Miami? Yeah, he was. I mean, he's a miserable defender. Now, I don't know if any of those guys are actually going to see the court. And you kind of saw their rotation in that Celtics game. It's a very short one. So maybe that'll be it. And it'll be 40 minutes a night. But there's just one too many things against the 76ers. You've got some guys who are inconsistent in the playoffs. I don't think they're as well put together. The rotation's short. I don't trust the coaching 100%. And then, again, the most important thing, I think they're kind of injury prone.
Yeah.
So,
right.
So it's all chalk up until this point.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have Boston and
Milwaukee. Give me Boston.
Over the last 10, or not even over the last, at any point, pick any stretch of games throughout the NBA this year, and Boston's net rating is like by far the highest.
They have the best point differential in the league this season by like 100 points, which is one of the best indicators of postseason success. I think, obviously last year, one thing that kind of kept coming up was like Jason Tatum. When is that dominant playoff performance coming? That was something that was kind of said over and over again. And they got through the East without it, if it never was there. I think that there's probably some bones to pick with saying that. I think he did have some fantastic performances. But I think that this is arguably a better team than it was last year. Obviously, the Bucks were missing Chris Middleton last year. But I think last year's Giannis was better than this year's Giannis. I think that is a fair thing to say, at least looking at the numbers. Not that it's still the same dude. It's not like there's a different version of Giannis every season. Like it's a 2K card. But I think that this might be a bit of a better, more dominant, like clear number one. I guess they weren't the 1 seed, so maybe they're not the clear number one, but I think Boston's got it, man. I think that they can lead on maybe some of those shorter rotations, and it's not going to matter because top to bottom, they're just so good. They've got the 6th man of the year potentially in Brogdon. It's just a really deep roster with really good results this season, and I think that they're the team of destiny here in the East.
Team of destiny.
I do not agree with talking about plus minus when one of the Bucks' best players has not played for more than half the season.
Yeah.
It's also, how many rest games have the Bucks killed their plus minus with? So I'm not necessarily bought into that. I don't buy into Jason Tatum being a bad playoff performer. I just think that those guys who are, shot creators in the way that Tatum is and Jaylen Brown as well, that just tends to be a little bit more hot cold when you're taking a lot of jump shots like that, the way that they go and it's good, but it's a little bit more hot cold. Same thing with like a Devin Booker. Devin Booker's really hot cold in the playoffs. Like if he was your number one, I think maybe more times people would recognize it. But he'll have a game where he shoots really well, and then he'll have a game where he shoots like 30% from the field. I think even in the finals run that the Suns had, he shot in a lot of those games. He shot under 40% from the field. So I think between the two of them, though, it doesn't happen. And Tatum is a lot more consistent than Booker is. But I don't know if I want to totally write off the Bucks here. That's a tough one.
I don't want to write them off.
Not to use the cliche, but like, dude, they took them to 7 and it came down to it with no Middleton. Like, that's pretty serious. And now this team has more spacing. I disagree entirely that this is not as good of a Giannis as it was last year. I think he's the exact same player. I think he has an incredibly good argument for MVP, and I would vote for him for MVP. I don't know. I'm not nearly as confident to bet against Milwaukee. I think the thing that scares me is like, how is Middleton actually going to be? And maybe that is what you take when you're going into a third series. I know that's lame to say. Maybe that's what you take. But the Bucks, their perimeter defense has been a little bit better this year. They haven't been allowing as many 3-pointers, which is big. Boston is, I saw the stat the other day when they have their good shooting nights, they're unstoppable. So that's important. But I think the Bucks are coming out here with better spacing. Hopefully more Chris Middleton than they got last series. And I know the Celtics aren't the same team they were last year either, but I like Milwaukee.
I mean, what you would like for the Bucks is if they could rest Middleton in round 1, and then in round 2 against the Cavs, you could ease him back. But since the Cavs are such a threat in that,
well, you don't want to be easing him back in round 1. You want him to be hitting his stride in round 2. You don't want him like, minutes restriction. Fair. We're playing Celtics for the like, this is not time for that's some regular season tune-up shit. Like you're hoping like he plays well and like knocks the rust off, I guess, versus round 1. Whoever the matchup is round 1.
I could maybe see you saying game 1 of that series, if Middleton is not 100%, you don't put him out there. Outside of that, he's just going. That's it. I mean, because you want to win those games, because if you want rest, win, and then you hope that some of those series go long. And the Bucks have set themselves up nicely. Being the 1 seed is a good thing. The ideal would be we go play like Chicago round 1 or whoever. We beat them in 4 or 5. Knicks Cavs goes a long series. Then we beat the Cavs in like 5 or 6, and then 76ers Celtics goes longer. So if you had to project that, you would think that they'll be on the waiting end of both of those if everything was just chalk, and that could give them a lot of rest here. So it's a very good thing that they're the 1 seed. Avoiding the 76ers in the second round is a big deal, I think. Avoiding Embiid, although maybe the Cavs will give them just as good a series. But I think I like the Bucks. I'm sorry, I think they're. It's a tough one, man. But I think if they have Middleton back healthy, and their spacing is better this year, and their perimeter defense, they haven't been allowing as many threes, I think I like them just a hair. And maybe I should be picking against a team going in with their second best player banged up, but I think that's lame this late in the game. I'll go Bucks.
I think it's lame to only pick the favorites in the seeding the whole time. So I'm picking the 2 seed over the 1 seed. I think Tatum will have a better playoff performance than he did last year. There were some areas where he was like notably bad, like finishing at the rim, for example, and he was turning the ball over a lot. And I think like there's some very
Lopez,
obvious,
baby.
Maybe.
It's going to be worse.
I am afraid he's the defensive player of the year.
He'll dunk it no times.
I think that there are some notable areas where I think Tatum can improve significantly, and he can still even be like average in these areas, and it will still be a market improvement over last year. And
both of these teams are so goddamn good, man. They're so well built.
We've said it before that this is probably the NBA Finals. So, Blaiden, you're the tiebreaker. Matt thinks Bucks. I think Celtics. Who are we having advancing?
If the Bucks beat the Cavs, then they're the better team. So
There's a lot of pressure on me.
they beat my team, so they can beat anybody, you know?
Okay. All right.
And that takes us over to the West. All right, we have the Bucks going on to the finals.
Let's do the same thing where the 1 and 2 seeds are probably getting past whoever the 7 and 8 seeds are.
I was about to say, you think
oh, right, the West,
not a guarantee in the Western Conference.
The stupid Lakers and whatnot.
And that is a very legit conversation. Now, there will be people listening to this podcast right now who are like, oh my God, I can't believe you're going to say the Lakers are going to win. Dude, if they win and they play the Grizzlies and the Grizzlies have no Steven Adams and it's just Jaren Jackson out there who gets into foul trouble, and Anthony Davis is playing like he is now, yes, they are very much in trouble. Yeah. They are ridiculously in trouble. Anthony Davis has played well against the Grizzlies anyway, but I think Davis is up there, and people I almost think have forgotten this because he's just missed so much time, and the Lakers have been such a disaster. Anthony Davis is up there with Jokic and Embiid, where it's like you have to have somebody serious on them, or it's just done. Or it's just they will they'll beat you on the mismatch every time. And that's I've talked a million times about how that's the difference between like the pretty good centers and the great ones. So if I'm the Grizzlies, I'm really, really, I mean, the other option's the Timberwolves, who also have good bigs, so it's not awesome either. But it's a little bit more handleable when it's Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns.
Right. I mean, the Lakers are top 5 in offensive rating in the last 10 games.
They have the best record in the league since March 1st. Thank you, Nets study, for getting all of my stats and the rest of this bracket. But they're a lot like the Nets, where they're just a very, very different team than they were at the beginning of the year. But they're the good version of the Nets, where instead of trading away all their stars for very good players, I love Mikal Bridges. I love him so much. I love Cameron Johnson. I think it's a good core going forward. But they are a bit different than the Nets, where I think that post-trade deadline, this Lakers team is actually way more dangerous than they were before. Just trade Russ. It was always the answer. It was always a bad idea. They traded him, and all of a sudden they have the best record in the league. Not to boil it down to something that's as simple, but oh my God, how inefficient did he have to be before we this was not that difficult to see coming. They added a lot of depth, and they've got more star power than anybody else in the West, damn near. So we picked all chalk in the last round. So what do we want to do here? Do we want to have them beating the Nuggets or the Grizzlies?
I don't want to say that I'm totally out on the Grizzlies entirely. They're a very well built team themselves. They're the second seed for a reason. But man, it's a tough one. The problem is if you pick the Lakers to win this one and they don't, people have your head. But
this is the stay high consensus one.
Actually, I don't think people would have your head too much.
Oh, people!
It's the Lakers, man.
First off, it's the Lakers. People How can I not pick the Lakers? Second off, it's Braun. How can I not pick him?
Yeah, you can't pick against glorious king.
I don't know. It's it's tough because AD getting back to himself. It puts LeBron and Anthony Davis up there as one of the best duos in the NBA again. Yeah. I would argue they have the best 2 players in this series. And with, the rotation really coming together, Austin Reeves has gotten so much better, and D'Angelo Russell has been playing some pretty decent basketball recently.
It's tough.
The best record in the league since March 1st. They are playing they are just a straight up good team right now.
I'm sorry. And I do.
I do too.
I respect the Grizzlies, but losing Steven Adams for this series is killer, man. It sucks so bad. This is worst case possible scenario for them. And things I don't know. If Jaren Jackson Jr. has to stay out of foul trouble, he has to.
And I don't know if I trust him to do that. I don't know. Let's say it was all chalk in the last ones. I'm sorry, Grizzlies fans. I'm sure that Grizzlies fans, and they will take a well-deserved victory lap if they beat the Lakers. Let it be known right now, because here's what's going to happen. The Lakers are going to beat the Timberwolves because the Timberwolves are falling apart at the seams. Jaden McDaniels is breaking out and just broke his hand because he punched a fucking wall.
That's nuts, man. Game 82.
It's Minnesota sports, dude. It's Minnesota sports. This is always how it goes.
Yeah.
So the Lakers are probably going to win. I would assume the Timberwolves are a dangerous team with good bigs, and they're it's not unfathomable to think they win in a 1-game series and they play them. But let's say the Lakers win and then the Grizzlies play the Lakers, and the media is going to be hyping up the Lakers. We're hyping up the Lakers.
Yeah.
Then if the Grizzlies win, everyone will be like, Grizzlies fans are being so annoying. Like, y'all beat the 7 seed. Calm down. But Grizzlies fans, like, let it be known right now. I get it. Like, don't let them gaslight you into thinking that it's not okay to like take a victory lap if you guys win.
If they win, we will post this clip of Theo being like, "You're right."
Do not let them gaslight you into thinking this is just a normal 2 versus 7 seed, and you should just like shut up. It would be a great win. It would be a great win, and they'll try to tell you that it's not.
That would be. It's a very tough pull. I mean, I think we can. Even the biggest Laker hater can admit. I don't know. I wonder how highly this Lakers team would have seeded if they had been like this the whole year.
We should post a poll on Twitter. Be like, who are you taking, Lakers or Grizzlies?
Maybe for posterity's sake, I would be curious. But so then the 8 seed, 1 seed. I guess if the Timberwolves lose, it would be a win or go home game. Let's say they win the next one and they play the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets win. I just don't like where the Timberwolves are at right now, man. They just don't seem to be in a state to like win a playoff series.
They're fighting.
The 2 or the 1 seed.
I think they could give them a pretty good fight. I mean, I have my problem with the Nuggets that we'll get into, but like, no, I'm not going to pick them to lose to the Timberwolves round 1. I don't know if I want to get too deep into that.
Yeah. We've got to keep it moving. So let's move on.
All right, we'll take Denver there, and that gives us. Oh, well, we forgot to go through the rest of round 1. I was about to move on.
Yeah, you got to talk about the Suns.
The Suns.
The Suns
and the Clippers. Man,
I worry a bit.
I feel like we haven't talked about the Clippers in a relevant sense, like at this point in time, in a while.
The last time we talked about the Clippers was when I said they might be the team to miss the playoffs the way it stands right now, a couple episodes ago. The Suns I worry about a little bit in the same sense that, like, when you are constantly living on creating your own shot and you're not a great 3-point shooting team or you're not a great team inside the paint, those are the easy, consistent, they can be there basically game in and game out type of teams. I think the long 2, creating your own shot off the dribble, the thing all the Suns are great at. It is a bit inconsistent, but I do think they are just so good at it that it is not going to matter. They are, when KD and Booker play together, the results have been pretty spotless. I think they've won every single game in a very 6-game sample size in those situations. I do worry about their bench. I worry about their defense on the bench. Terrence Ross, different T name. Like, he has just been so terrible defensively. And like, when he's on the floor, their defensive rating is like 120 since they traded for him. So it's like, they might get cooked. They are playing a team with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George on it. Who are a little bit like the Lakers in the sense that they are just they're a tough pull. They've got star power. Like, they could always just kind of turn it on, much like the Suns could. But I'm picking my Suns here. I just think that the star power, they've got one of those players that if you have them, you can win a finals. And I think that they're gonna win, even though they don't have too much time to gel. I think they can win this series. I think it's gonna be tough, but I think they can win this series.
Matt, how do you feel?
Well, the Clippers without one of Paul George or Kawhi Leonard has been a very good team, funny enough, when they've played. I don't have, I'm going to stick. I mean, Paul George is he's got no timetable to return right now. I don't know what I'm supposed to make of that, man. Exercising, but no timetable to return. Yeah, I think there's just a star power gap, and I really do worry about the defense overall with the Suns for sure. But we're talking about a Clippers team that's going to be expecting big minutes from Westbrook in the playoffs. I don't want to hash out old things for the sake of trashing Westbrook. I have no desire to do that, and he played some good basketball down the stretch today. He had a couple.
Oh yeah, he was good for the Clippers. Yeah,
and he's had some really good games and some good moments. But like, at the end of the day, I really do ultimately believe, like, putting a point guard out there who can't shoot, and they don't have really a stretch 5 like that. It's spacing gets tough.
Yeah,
down there. So, and Kawhi and Paul George have been banged up all season. They'll probably never play. Well, I don't know about George, but Kawhi will probably never play a full season again. Although he's healthy now, and he had he really closed out today. But you've also got the fighting with them. I mean, Mason Plumlee and Bones Highland, which I don't know if that's really a fist fight. If I was Bones Highland, I'd want to get into, dude. Mason Plumlee has to have like 100 pounds on him, right? Like I don't know. But yeah, I agree. I think the Suns are a lot more talented of a team right now with no Paul George. It's a tough pull for the Suns if Paul George comes back, but also you're the 4 seed, so you kind of have it coming.
Yeah.
So we're leaning Suns here, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think so. You better. I'm bullying you into putting them into the finals.
Anyway, now we have my Sacramento Kings going up against the Golden State Warriors.
Give me the Warriors. Look, man, they're a lot like the team they were last year, dude. I think it's a big ask. They're getting healthy at the right time. It looks like Wiggins will be back. I think he has had a lot of kind of mystery with why he's gone and a lot of reckless speculation. But I don't know, dude. It's Curry and it's boring and everyone's going to have this upset, but I don't know, man. If they're coming up healthy, they've got a real shot to make it out of the West. Like, Curry is so fucking good, and they should have a lineup that's pretty good defensively. I think they could slow them down, and it's just hard to bet against a team like that. It's pretty basic logic, but that's the logic I'm going with.
The Kings are probably just a little bit ahead of schedule. Their offense is amazing. I mean, they've had this crazy offense all year, but as much as I love De'Aaron Fox, I don't even know if I can pick them.
Yeah. I'd probably have to go with the Warriors as well. Look, man, they're getting healthy at the right time. I'll be completely honest with you. This is going to be a mean take. The Kings are not the 3 seed that makes them out to be, if that makes any sense. Like they're
overseeded a bit.
Teams. Yeah, both of their stars have played 70-plus games. Behind them sitting is the Clippers, who that is not true for. The Suns, who I don't even know what you want to make of them. Booker missing a bunch of time. Kevin Durant has played 6 games. I mean, the whole thing. And then the Warriors, who have been incredibly banged up. Sacramento is also a team that pushes the pace, which I think works against some teams, but ultimately in the playoffs, that makes me a little bit nervous. Not to say that their offense hasn't been good overall. It has been really good overall. But I always feel like the pacing stuff, like the game does slow down a little bit in the playoffs, and the transition stuff isn't there as much. And I don't necessarily trust, there's a lot of Sabonis at the 5 minutes. I don't necessarily trust that a whole ton. I don't think he's the greatest defender in the world. I do worry about the Warriors' depth, but overall, I mean, what's the stat? Since Kerr came, the Draymond, Steph, and Clay have never lost a series that they've all played in. Getting Wiggins back changes everything, and you got to keep in mind that this Warriors team was 4 games behind Sacramento. I think they have the best player in the series. I think they're going to have the better defense. I'm going to go with them.
I don't know.
The Warriors just dropped 150. The Warriors won by 56 today.
Who was all right? I'll tell you.
I don't care who they were playing for that. No, I just know that they did because that game.
How many players playing for Portland in this game can you name? I'm not even to be a hater. I'm just wondering.
They played Sharp, the rookie Shaedon Sharp.
I clicked off,
and that's about all I got for you.
Kevin Knox was in this game.
I know him.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it now. Who is Jonathan?
We've got AI generated names.
Shout out Skylar Mays for being a minus 44 today. That's tough. Buddy.
Oh my god,
that's not your fault, man. They put you. They played him 41 minutes God bless it.
Okay.
I just hope they had fun.
But I don't know. I think that starting five is still super strong when they get Wiggins back. I think it's so complete and so well-rounded. And I do like Sacramento's prospects for the future. Now, I'll say that about them to be nice. I think that if a team is going to go be aggressive and make a big move, they could totally be that team. And then all of a sudden they're pretty legit. But I think outside of the seeding, the 6/3 is, I don't know how rare that is, but outside of how that makes it look, I'm going with the Warriors. I'm sorry. I think getting Wiggins back gives them a really strong defense. I think Clay has been a little bit more like himself.
He's been
obviously Curry is still Curry. So,
but when I drop my playoff predictions tonight on Twitter,
it's going to look very different.
It's gonna be Cavs versus Kings in the finals. That's
Where are the Hawks? How far do you have the Hawks going?
Let's see. How far can I have?
This really is the BLAIDEN playoffs. Wow.
The Cavs. We'll have a Cavs Hawks Eastern Conference Finals.
This has got to be the first playoffs ever where those three teams all made it. But what's next?
Well, that brings us to the Western Conference semifinals.
Okay.
We'll start with Warriors in LA.
Ooh.
Warriors in LA.
Probably the Warriors.
Oh, the other thing I forgot to bring up about the Sacramento Warriors series, the Warriors have been horrible on the road this year. And they're playing the team that is the closest to them.
Yeah, but they're playing a team that lights the beam, and that's the difference.
True. I am doubting the beam. What do they do if it's a playoff?
You're gonna hit some
if they win a playoff series against a team, they aim it at their stadium.
Yeah. Has anyone had a question could the Kings be aiming at something when they light this beam? Could it be reflecting off a satellite towards maybe Golden State?
They've known about this matchup.
How would the Warriors be playing in LA?
What?
What do you mean?
They'd be the home team.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said in LA.
I said and.
Oh.
Occasionally they'd be playing in LA since it's a 7-game series and all. But who do we have in this one? It would be very interesting. I think the Lakers are good. I think the Buck could stop there.
Warriors are a little bit more well equipped to deal with the Lakers. That's a tough one, man.
The interior defense is a bit of a question mark. I guess they've got Draymond, I guess, but who would guard a 5 if Anthony Davis was playing there? I guess just Draymond. This is a stupid question, but then it would look if Wiggins would guard LeBron. So it would, and of course there'd be switches and whatnot. It wouldn't be totally a one-on-one, but they do seem to have the guys to slow down the Lakers stars where it's I think that the Warriors would win this. They won they won it all last year. It's about the same team. The Lakers are hot, but are they that hot to beat a team like the Warriors right now who have, the capacity to truly just win the entire Western Conference, which I guess the Grizzlies do as well. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, it's and this is why the West is just so hard to predict. I probably would lean the Warriors as well a little bit. I think once you can match against AD,
this is
and we are. I think a deep playoff run is really tough when we're talking about Anthony Davis, who's a little bit more fragile, and LeBron, who's getting pretty old here,
and they're in the play-ins too. They may not even make it this far. Just got so.
I think, and they've got. If you're looking at it like a March Madness way, I think they can win a series, and I could see the world where they go on a run, but it's really tough. I also just don't think their defenders are quite as good as Golden State's. I still think Draymond is so good defensively, and I still think Wiggins should come back and be himself. He wasn't hurt, obviously. So with that stuff, it'll be interesting to see how Kuminga does in the playoffs this year. I'm interested for that, but I'd probably lean the Warriors here.
And if we're picking Warriors, picking against Bron, I imagine we're also going to.
How does this affect LeBron's legacy? How does this affect LeBron's legacy?
How does this affect LeBron?
We're also picking against who?
Jokic.
Yeah. If we want to go Nuggets Suns, then I
they don't have the defenders, man. They're getting cooked by the Suns.
we can say that same thing about the Suns.
I don't.
And this all you give me.
care.
I feel okay about these four teams. These four teams making the second round. Outside of this, I don't know with these guys. I think, but it's just like it's very scary to imagine. Like there's really nowhere to hide Jokic against this Suns team, and that's the problem. And the Nuggets have done a very good job of trying to hide him defensively, but ultimately, people shoot pretty well against him, even in the paint. And you imagine, you absolutely can't switch, and Ayton's a very good screen setter. And if you're drawing Jokic out there against
performer. Like he locks in a little bit during the playoffs. He has been very successful at these times. Like I know when you see like Jokic versus Ayton, it's like the best player in the league versus someone who is kind of a bit of a disappointment and gets a lot of hate from his own fan base. But really, like Ayton can score, and he has scored on Jokic before. And if the Suns get like consistent performances out of Ayton, they are probably winning the entire thing. If like Ayton plays very well, and against an interior defender like Jokic, Ayton will probably play well. So I think that we're going to get a good performance out of Ayton in this season, in this series. I think he can lock in, and I think with that consistent presence, which I think can happen, and it has happened before the playoffs when they went to the finals, he was very, very good. But yeah, I think that there is going to be that consistent paint scoring threat, and also you just got middied to death by the Phoenix Suns reaction images. So yeah, I think that there can be. I just think that they're more talented, man. We're looking at KD versus Jokic. Who's better? It's a real conversation, and I'd rather be surrounded by, if those are the two best players in the series, give me KD, who's surrounded by Booker and Chris Paul and Ayton, as opposed to like Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray. I think the Suns have got it.
Well, then that gives us a conference finals of Suns Warriors. And I imagine this one's going to be revenge tour Kevin Durant. Hold on. If you can even call it a revenge tour, like they won. Like they were good when he was on the Warriors.
This was supposed to happen last year. It's this matchup, the Suns versus the Warriors. Everybody was so excited, and the Mavericks ruined everything. So you finally get the matchup that was supposed to happen. This time the Suns have got an extra Kevin Durant.
Right.
Of course, sacrificing two major players, but I don't know. Matt, tell it to me straight. What's happening? I'm biased. I'm removing myself from the conversation. You pick.
I pick.
Yeah.
He's thinking.
I can't tell you, man.
It's a tough one. Are turning.
So it's the Suns. Tie goes to the team I'm biased against. The Suns have the most star power in the West. They do. They've got the type of player that can win a finals. And when you look at the finals winners, it's always a LeBron. It's always a Giannis. It's always, it's a Curry. You just need a guy like that. And the Warriors have a guy like that, but the Suns might have two. I just think that is going to be enough. Chris Paul recently has done a lot more, catch and shoot. He has played better recently. He's been scoring more. He's been very effective kind of in that role. In the 6 games, I think at this point, if they won 2 series, they'd be a pretty finely tuned machine at this point. That's kind of the worry with the Suns, is like maybe it just never quite gets off the ground. Like maybe guys get hurt. Guys get don't gel the way you'd thought, and it kind of falls on its face in a way you didn't quite expect. But if they get this far, if they get 2 series under their belt and they're kind of worrying, it could be very, very dangerous.
I probably agree. I guess I think that with the Warriors, you do have to keep in mind that Draymond was just terrible offensively last year. And
he's going to get ejected and suspended and miss a couple games in this series.
What was it that we were betting like Draymond under on points, and it was like 4?
Yeah, it was bad. Right. And I just wonder if the path to like things going sour on offense is a little bit easier to see for the Warriors. If like Clay has an off night, you don't expect a ton from Looney because he's just playing his role, and then Draymond, it's like, oh man, so I probably like the Suns, but it's kind of against my mantra of defense matters way more than people expect. I don't think the Suns are going to be that crazy of a defensive team, but Ayton can do his thing, and Kevin Durant is actually a pretty good defender, and Booker
is pretty, and Chris Paul.
They actually have their personnel is not like that far off or anything. It's not like they're sending out like all duds of Chris Paul at this age.
Chris Paul at this age is not as
going to get attacked.
Yeah, he is.
But I also like, I respect Curry's defense to some extent, but like with Booker and Kevin Durant, they're not going to have any fear switching on to him. So yeah, I probably like the Suns. I said that earlier in a video today that I'd have the Suns making it out of the West if I had to guess. I also think just if we're zooming out a little bit, I think that they have more room to take an injury and survive it. Like if something happened to Chris Paul, they can survive it. If something happens to Booker exclusively, they could probably survive it for a little bit. With the Warriors, it's like if something happens to Wiggins, it's like, man, it gets tough. If something happens even to like Clay, it's like, man, it gets tough. Or Draymond, it's like, ooh, I don't know. So I do lean Suns.
But I think Boston would beat him in the finals.
Yeah, I agree. Boston's the more complete team. It would be a good one. But if you're not making me pick, then I'd take Boston or the Bucks, whoever we had.
Oh, wait, we did have the Bucks, didn't we?
Yeah.
That's just a rematch. That's boring. That's okay. I would still take Bucks. I'd say the Bucks could probably beat him again.
Bucks over the
But that's
Suns.
what you go get Kevin Durant for. You do. There's a very real chance you face the Bucks again, and you need a Kevin Durant to beat him. Like, you need to do something pretty drastic to get over the top because things kind of sputtered last time. And that's a whole different ball game when you've got a guy like that, and they've been preparing for that moment, and it wasn't enough. That's kind of what I think is going to happen. They did what they needed to do to like throw a different type of pitch at the same team. And I just don't know if they're quite as well built or well rounded enough like the Bucks are in terms of like both offense and defense, whether it be Boston or
I
Milwaukee,
kind of agree.
Whoever it is.
Yeah.
Well, those are the NBA playoff picks. They're going to come true. They are going to come true. It's a guarantee. It's a lock. But unless you guys have anything else, it's a pretty long episode. We can probably get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, tons of content coming to all platforms. Make sure you comment down below. Let us know who you're picking to win it on the NBA Finals. And again, make sure you follow us on Instagram and comment there and let us know who you think is going to win the NBA Finals. But until then, as always, from Cornboy, Birdman, Lemon Boy, we will catch you all on the Flippity Flop.